Hello, everybody. Welcome to the sales. And actually, do we have an official name for this group yet, everyone? Do we have an official name? Nadine, what should we call ourselves?
Sales. I haven't think of any other name.
Okay. All right. Let's call this the sales chapter meeting then, for lack of a better name. But let's be consistent on it, so we keep to it. All right. So let's take where we picked off. So Kyla, thank you for setting up the board on this particular conversation. So where we left off last time is that we needed some KPIs, right? And let's kind of zoom out a little bit and look at everything holistically before we kind of get ourselves into the weeds here. So what I want to do first is to really emphasize this particular diagram. Shaylin brought this up today at the All Hands. I'm sure everybody was paying attention when Shaylin brought this up. And the thing about this is that this is something I think we can get right in this chapter that we've not gotten right in other chapters. So, no worries. Okay, thank you, Colette, for being transparent. That's really good. Thank you for telling us. But what I want to do, and this is a good opportunity to refresh, is that whatever we do sort of follows this particular mechanism, right? So we create tools. Tools at Bukit Vista can be any number of things, and I want to be clear about what we mean by tools. Tools can be a Dropbox paper showing you a guideline. Tools can be using Bigger. Tools can be Google Analytics. Tools can be Discord, Trello. All these are sort of different tools, right? But tools can also be KPIs. Tools can also be SLAs because they give us essentially an idea of what we need to focus on, right? What is the end goal? So the tool and the goal together put into a package is actually very, very helpful. So what we're doing here is we need to understand what part is the tool building, what part is the adoption, and what part is the inspection. Now, here's something that we have discovered in other chapters that I would like to bring here. Without all three pieces, generally we have failure. What does failure look like? Failure can look like we have a tool, nobody uses it, and we don't know if anybody actually follows it, right? So that, if you remember the Spotify model, that's like the boss guy looking and he's like wondering, I hope somebody's working on the bitch problem, right? So that's not where we want to be. That's one type of failure. The other type of failure is that you have a tool, people are using it, but they're using it incorrectly. They're using it kind of like in a suboptimal way. And it's because you haven't inspected and checked out if actually anybody is being held accountable to the correct way of using the tool. So primarily what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all three pieces here, right? But we are building the tool today. We're taking a look at how to build the KPIs, and then once we have these parts, then it'll be easier for adoption to happen. But that's not the end of the story, and that's part I want to really emphasize. The end of the story is actually it's never ending. When we inspect and we look at people's work, that will tell us if actually everything has actually worked according to plan. And then based on that, then we will come up with new tools and new guidelines and new ways to iterate the process. As you can see, this process is an iteration process. It's never a final process, okay? So that's the zoom out for the moment. The other thing I would like to do is let's take a look at this, right? So currently, we are studying these three particular issues for the reasons that properties are not being sold. So we've identified through three root causes: not optimizing for the marketing, efforts on maintaining inquiries is not sufficient, and not optimized sales cultures. We've identified then essentially the key components that we want to fix, right? We want to create better guidelines and timelines for how to optimize. We want to create better follow-up and engagement rate. We want to improve the conversion and persuasion rate, and we want to up the motivations. Okay, so those are intended outcomes, but we will create systems to improve persuasion negotiation. We'll produce systems and tools to improve the sales culture. But first, we need to finish this discussion about how do we know, right? How do we know if we're actually making progress or if we're actually falling behind? So that is the current moment in the conversation. So we're taking a look at KPIs, and I think we have some pretty good KPIs right now. Let's go to Nadine first. Nadine, tell us about the motivation KPIs that might actually solve this sales culture bit.
Okay, so this is actually a matrix to help us measure the performance of our members, actually, to measure the motivations as well. So this is what I got this week. So we probably could see the motivations and also the performance of the performer by the number of contacts that gathered, the number of the leads per week, and then the number of the leads being approached and the number of meetings per week as well. Those are basically the KPI, the metrics to measure the activity within the week.
Okay, great. And I think I really like what Nadine actually just said here, that this is essentially, I'll respond in a comment over on this side. I think that is correct. These are essentially activity, these are activity KPIs, right? So by having these particular pieces, it doesn't necessarily mean we're achieving, right? It means we are just seeing the activity towards achievement. So these are slightly different than achievement KPIs, right? So achievement KPIs can be things like actual sales, revenue, bookings, and such. But okay, conversion rate. Now, conversion rate is actually something interesting. So this is let's save that for now, Kyla, and take a look at where conversion rate might come in. Let's go back to Vidi. Vidi, do you believe that there are any other motivation KPIs? How do we know somebody is demonstrating that they're motivated?
Number of conversion itself.
Maybe they're not any good, right? So the conversions might actually indicate skill, but motivation is different than skill, right? Motivation
The
means
number itself, though, right?
yeah.
If there's we can see like if we observe month to month, how many are the number of conversion. Not the conversion rate, but the number of conversion, the magnitude itself.
Okay, let's go ahead and put that in. Thank you, Kyla, for taking over the sheet. All right, so we can take a look and understand the number of conversions, but let's really think about that, right? Because we might run into frustrating situations with sales, right? Does not getting any conversions indicate somebody has low motivation, or does it indicate maybe they have low motivation or low skill?
In my opinion, because that's why it's a multivariate, the multivariate analysis approach should be done. Like the number of total leads approach as well, how many is the conversion rate, the number of conversion. So for example, we have a matrix. If there is a high number of approach leads, but a low conversion rate, then maybe it's a skill problem.
Yes.
If it's a high conversion rate, but the number of total leads is small as well, then maybe it's low motivation.
Okay, so attempts, right? Attempts seem to give us an indication of what motivation is.
Yep.
If you attempt more times, just on an absolute scale, then you seem to be more motivated. You're attempting more things, right? If you attempt nothing, then it would indicate you probably have no motivation, right?
Yep. But there's also another problem. For example, because another feature to be analyzed as well, I think mentioned last week, is the average deal duration. So if it's like a small number of attempt, but then the average deal duration is long, it means maybe the approach is different. So there's always like these different features to be considered, and you can create a grid matrix on like a decision tree. So if this, but then this, so what are the components and what's the result?
Okay, so let's adopt a structure then, Vidi. What kind of ingredients are we going to put into, let's say, the motivation KPI, right?
Yep.
And how do we structure those ingredients?
I think it's been mentioned as well by a lot of people last week, but if we go a little bit down to the discussion, so what I propose is the name, inquiry count, inquiry converted, average deal duration, channel and response time, and the inspection method is the one that I think HR already adopt this inspection method to evaluate like the overall stats, right? But then also, so these are maybe it can be changed in this context to like average deal time, who is the, and what is the most successful medium, and also, so there's always an inspection method for this. So HR application form, job application is actually a well-inspected system.
I see what you're saying.
And then if we look at the image previously from HAR, we actually, not the image, sorry, the previous image on top of it, the black one.
Okay, yep.
Yes, so it is we also already like log in the database, like who is the main person to drive, like a champion, the champion for, even though there are a lot of people below the helping out with the deal, but who is the champion for that particular guest, so that we may have more focus. And we already logged the user email, so that's how we know the number of inquiry count handled, something like that.
Excellent.
So this is like the overall system that we propose.
Okay, got it. So okay, we're getting kind of like a more firm and more gripping.
Yeah, a more tangible system, I think.
Okay, got it. So we still need to answer the same question, right?
Yep.
So what are, do you think, the ingredients to measure motivation in this particular case? Is it going to be the same as HR, or is it different?
Those are the list. The listed one.
Oh, this one, average deal
Yep,
duration.
name,
Oh,
inquiry
there you
count,
have it.
channel
Okay,
response
average
time,
deal
yeah.
duration,
So-
channel, and response time. Does channel really tell us anything about motivation?
Because some, like, maybe this is just another like two, if external factor. Some channel might have like an easier conversion than the other. Sometimes, but that's just extra if you want to be like very nitpicking.
Okay, I get it. I see what you're saying. So you're saying essentially like if they hustle more, right, and they go into
Yep.
the channel that's harder, then
Yep.
that
Because
should- okay.
like we noticed, I think in Facebook, you need more hustle compared to Airbnb, because in Airbnb we get approached.
Okay.
In Facebook, you
Okay.
kind of like post out there.
Okay, got it. Average deal duration, I tend to agree, right? So the more motivated somebody is, the more
Yep.
likely they're going to shorten that deal duration, right?
Yep, and this one is also already logged in the database by the movement of, just like in the application form case. That's why we can
Understood.
like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can also track what channel is the most difficult by probably ranking which channel we get the most
Yep.
bookings, right? Okay, so we can
And
see
it
which
comes from the average of everyone.
Okay.
So maybe if like there's one channel that actually one person is good at this channel, but when they move to another channel, their performance kind of drop. So it means the channel itself is maybe the issue, or maybe we have not discovered something about the channel.
Understood. Okay. Next one is this, the response time. I feel like that is a subset, meaning that
Yep.
maybe that belongs to the average deal duration, right? As maybe a subcomponent
correct.
of it. Okay.
Correct. So
Okay.
it's a subset.
So if it's a subset, then what we should do, perhaps in this case, Kyla, is to indent, right? We take the response time and we indent it as part of the average deal duration. So, okay, that is a strong KPI. If people understand that they're supposed to close the deal in the shortest amount of time possible, right, then they would try to respond quickly, right, and not like, allow for too much time to first response, too much time to first reply, too much time to reply in each particular case. But we also, I feel like, need to counterbalance this because we don't want to sound like we're in a rush, right? To necessarily, we don't want to structure our motivation KPIs to be, let's say, a little bit too extreme, so then everybody sounds like very, hey, do you want to book now or what? like testy, right? So, okay, let's consider that, Kyla. Let's consider that there could be a necessity for a balancing KPI. Because remember, if we don't define a balancing KPI, then we could be too successful. And that might go outside the boundary of what we consider inspire delight, right? It could just start becoming inspire people to transact, right? So, okay, let's get that done. Let's think of any other KPIs. Are there any other KPIs for motivation then? Let's kind of revisit what we had up here. The number of upper funnel activity. What do you think about that, Vidi? So number of contacts, number of leads. Is that expressing motivation?
Yeah, to an extent. It
Okay.
express motivation. Yep.
All right.
Activities tend to express motivation. So even though they might lack the skill, but activities itself like supposedly shows motivation.
Right. So okay, let's be clear about this part too, because I think we need to analyze it. So motivation is different than actually achievement because we need to connect this, right? Motivation relates to culture of the sales team, right? So we want essentially to be paying attention to that as well, right? So some people are going to be prodigies, fine, they're probably just going to, okay, they get a deal. But that might not actually be very motivating for somebody who's struggling, right? So I think it is actually a primary indicator of how strong the sales culture is, which is something that if we're not talking about creating sales individuals, we're talking about creating a sales team. So in that aspect, do you think that dimension is let's say the best way to tie sales culture to motivation? Vidi, what do you think about that?
Sorry, sir. Do you mean like how to evaluate the sales culture of the company itself,
Or sales culture of the chapter, right?
of the chapter, right? If it's the chapter, then yeah, that may be the activity. But then
Okay.
also the standard deviation, maybe.
Oh, tell me more about
So
standard deviation.
who is the, like, let's say we have a very top performing one, and then like there's someone very low on the bottom. So it means like it's not really, on average, it's not really equal.
I see. So we're probably gonna get like what, top performers over here, and then sort of median.
Yeah. But
and then,
what's the range, right? Is it that far? If it's too far, then maybe it's not really a culture, but it's like let's say it's the case with Mawayan. She's really good at doing a deal, but the other people in her team cannot replicate because the chapter itself does not translate what Mawayan did to the team. So the standard deviation itself.
Okay, so could that then be the KPI for how great the sales culture is?
Yes, that's the meta. Yeah. Sales culture itself.
Okay, so it's probably not okay. So now that goes up to another level now. All right. So then we need to ask ourselves this: did we define optimized sales culture correctly, or should optimized sales culture be what is the spread between the highest performer and the lowest performer?
I would start the spread, because if it's too like the spread is too big.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it means it's not it's not standardized as well. That there's someone who's like really low performing.
Right. Okay. So it would be median and standard deviation, right? So we want a high median and we want low standard deviations, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Everybody, I know this is a little bit of math and data science and statistics. It's not data science yet, but it's statistics, right? So what we're looking to do is this, right? Let's say, in the analogy of Wayana, let's say she's a top performer here, right? And let's say we have a new person who comes in and they're like kind of a bottom performer here. So it doesn't matter where the top and the bottom is. What matters is who is in the middle, and do we have a good concentration of people in the middle of the pack? That would indicate that we have a healthy sales culture. What an unhealthy sales culture would look like is probably it's called a double hump, right? Double hump distribution. An unhealthy sales culture might look something a little bit more like this, right? You have a group of weak performers, you have a group of strong performers. Your median is in kind of like the middle over here, and your standard deviations, your spacing is really fat, right? Like you have quite a lot of space between that. Vidi, that would be essentially like tribes. You know, you have like a high performing tribe and a low performing tribe, right? And that would indicate you don't have a very good sales culture in essence. Am I right?
Yep, correct, sir.
Okay. All right. So, Kyla, this is where we need to go back and revisit our base assumptions then now. Do you believe, Kyla, I think it was Kyla that actually first wrote this, right? Do you think that what we just discussed is a better guideline than the previous guideline?
This one is the better one.
Okay.
More defined, I think.
Okay, let's go to Nadine. Do you agree? Or what's your thoughts?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, then okay, look, guess what, everyone? We have gone through a cycle of the mechanism already, right? So we've understood that the tool probably didn't serve the purpose because we inspected the tool and we see that the tool could be improved. Okay, so then Kyla, what I need us to do now is, could you do this for us, right? Could you go back to the whimsical and update this particular chart? And perhaps on this particular white card, instead of writing low motivations, we actually ask about what is the standard deviation in terms of what is the median performance and the standard deviation, right? And okay, now that brings another question, right? What is that median performance mean? What is that median marker? Is it the number of deals? Is it number of contacts? Is it the number of leads? What is that median in the scope? Well, Vidi, what do you think it should be?
Motivations, right?
Yes.
I thought we.
Oh no. We're not doing motivation anymore. We're saying that sales culture is now defined.
Sales culture,
yeah, by the median and the standard deviations, but of what? Of like total number of deals, of what should it be?
It can be multi-feature. You can measure like the top funnel, middle funnel, and top funnel and middle funnel.
We gotta make some decisions. That's too complicated, right? Can't visualize all that, you know.
Yeah, it's actually if you can use both, then it's a bit difficult. We have to express it in one number, right?
Ideally,
Sales cluster is top funnel, right?
yeah,
Because you kind of hustle.
yeah,
So that's top funnel. You measure the standard deviation of the
Yeah.
funnel.
okay. Let's do it this way then. If we can't reach a decision, let's pass this question on the floor. So here's essentially the framework, everyone. We have to determine. All right, we understand the shape now, right? We understand the shape is we want people to be we want this median line to be moved as far right as possible. We want high performance. We want everybody kind of clustered around the high performance. We don't want like people like, you know, kind of trailing off over this side and a little small head on this side. We want it to kind of be balanced. But what should that number be? What should that number be? Is it the total number of contacts? Is it the deals? Is it the number of meetings that we have? What should be that number? Now, here's the debate, right? So if you're measuring like, let's say the culture, is the culture just about end performance? Is it just about securing deals? Or is it about creating revenue, right, from the deals? It could be you get less deals, but you have to produce more revenue. Or is it just the number of tries that you've had, right? The number of meetings. So there is different reasons to adopt every single one, but Vidi, do we have any preference right now for which flavor we want to use?
Currently, the preference is on the end goal, actually, right?
Revenue, right? Okay.
Yeah, output of the funnel.
Okay, so let's make an imperfect decision, everybody. Done is better than perfect, right? So, Kyla, let's just say this, right? Let's say that in this particular target in KPI, we'll say it's some sort of high median of revenue produced by each person with a low standard deviation around that median, right? So we'll determine what the median revenue produced by each salesperson is, and then we'll say that everybody in that team should have a high median and like low number of variance around that. So then that creates a sales culture. That creates everybody kind of like that's moving together as a band. I think that kind of makes sense for now, right? Yeah? Yep. Makes sense? So, okay, to put some flesh around it, let's say each salesperson will produce $6,000 worth of income, and the standard deviations are 1,000, right? So some people produce 7, some people produce 5, but it should not be like 3,000, right? Shouldn't be like the median's 5,000. Some people produce 2, some people produce 8, right? It should be kind of like a little bit more congealed together. Okay, great. Okay, so we have that. That's great. So now we have a better understanding of this. So what I'll do is, Kyla, is the new diagram ready?
Sorry, excuse me, sir.
Is it okay?
Line on.
Okay, so this is the section that we need to change right now, right? So when Kyla changes that, then let's do this, Kyla. Once you change that, just go ahead and screenshot that, and let's put it back up into the discussion, I guess here, right? Wait, where are we now? I'm kind of like all over the place. Sales culture. Oh yeah, just go ahead and put it. Oh, you already have it. Okay, so let's do this. Kyla, this is important. So this right now is the discussion. This isn't the guideline, but this is the guideline, right? So whatever discussion agreements we make, we're going to have to go and modify the guideline. So those particular, this particular statement here, you can go ahead and put right there, right, on this particular metric that we're going to measure for sales culture. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. Great. Let's see. So okay, we made a decision. Wait, where's my? Sorry, excuse me here. Let's see. HR SLAs. I'm going to HR to borrow my template. Borrow the template. Hi, Alia. Welcome to the discussion. How you doing?
Hi, sir. Sorry, I have like assignments, so I can't really be active in this discussion for a while.
But why are you here then? Work on your
I'm
assignment.
sorry. Okay. I'll work on my assignment first, and then I'll join here.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
focus one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Yeah. Okay. So let's go over here. I think we can probably do this. All right. This is a new type of conclusion board that I've put, and I'm trying to populate throughout the company, right? So every time we finish a discussion, it should be for a specific purpose. We either add a guideline, remove a guideline, improve a guideline, don't change the guideline, we have no decision, or we decide to follow up, right? So I think what we're doing right now is we're actually adding guidelines. We're actually figuring out what should be there. So, okay, that is becoming more crystal clear. Okay, good. So we have so we have an explanation now for sales culture. Let's go to the next KPI, which is the KPI about persuasion now. Okay, let's go to Nadine. Nadine, what do you think the KPI for persuasion should be?
If it's about the activity, it should be like numbers of follow-up.
Okay, so this is where we might need a hierarchy of sort of information, right? So I think it's this. Babe, what do you think? What do you think the KPIs of persuasion should be?
The KPI of persuasion, let me think. I think the engagement and the word, like the persuasion word that you're putting on.
People can use a number of words, right, and have different amount of success. So we can't measure activity. We have to measure result, right? We have to understand what is the end sort of output of persuasion. Vidi, what do you think it is? What?
The conversion?
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's go to Vidi. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Conversion rate.
Okay. Yeah. Successful outcomes over total attempts, right? So you get 10 tries, you convert half of them, you're a 50% converter, right? You have 10 tries, you convert 0 of them, not so good, right? You get 10 tries, you convert 2 of them, you're probably half as good, right? So, I mean, it's I think as simple as that. What you use, what type of methodology, how you follow up, that's your business, right? But the end sort of KPI should be, okay, what is your result? What was the number of successful outcomes over the total attempts? But one more, divided by time.
Time.
Yeah. So how much do you convert over how much time, right? Because you might get the same conversion rate, but you take twice as long. Then you're probably less persuasive, right? But if you get the same number of conversions, right, the same proportion of conversions, but you do it in less time, then you're very effective. Okay, let's think about that, right? 5 deals converted, 10 total attempts done in a week. Very different than 5 deals, 10 attempts done in a month, all right? Feels different, no? Okay. So, okay, I think that is how we determine our KPIs for persuasion. Okay, so does that answer our question here then? Do we have now a KPI for persuasion? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for now.
Okay, let's go ahead and put that in then. So we have a KPI for persuasion. Okay, now, not optimize marketing for new properties, right? Because there's no guidelines and no regarding how to optimize. Let's start with KPIs first, right? So what is optimized marketing actually look like? Ooh, fun question. Let's see. All right, let's go to Kyla. Kyla, what do you think optimized marketing looks like?
The number of engagement or impressions.
Okay. I think there's a better answer here. Let's go to Nadine. What do you think?
Number of inquiry
Divided by
number of bookings. Number.
Oh,
Huh?
no,
Wait,
that's the persuasion rate. No.
Postings.
Now, kind of. Okay, you're closer, right? So remember, it's the number of results over the number of attempts, okay? Number of results over number of attempts. So we can actually do that maybe, Nadine, right? if we think of it as, let's say, video, my mind just got blown, all right? I just realized there's two ways to do marketing. There is active and passive marketing, okay? So
Yeah.
Nadine is talking about active marketing, where it's the total number of leads divided by the total number of posts. So that's where you
Yep.
actively have to do something. But then there's passive, right? Which is the total number of leads probably over the time, right? These are
Time,
things
yep.
that kind of like do themselves, right? They generate like a website or an Instagram account or whatever, right? They sort of like generate on their own. So does that mean we need to split this particular thing into two categories then? So perhaps, Kyla, we need two branches, right? We need one branch for active marketing and one branch for passive marketing. Or wait, hold on a second. Is active marketing sales?
Yep, that's the marketing side, I think, not really the negotiation, persuasion side.
Right. So active marketing is a form of sales, right?
Active marketing, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
using marketing techniques, of course,
Okay.
compared to like persuasion negotiation.
It's lead generation, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so it's lead generation then. So let's go and ask ourselves, property not being sold. Uh-oh, now we have a dilemma. Is properties not being sold, can that be solved by lead generation? Nadine needs to go, yeah? Okay. All right, Nadine, I'll catch you later, yeah. All right, let's go to Wyana, right? Is properties not being sold, can that be fixed by lead generation?
Property not being sold can be that lead from lead generation. I don't see the connection there.
All right. Okay. So let's think of lead generation as we do for partner side, right? We go out, we do canvassing, we look for people who want to submit properties in to Bukit Vista, right? And that's how we bring in new partnerships, right?
Yeah.
Can we do the same for guests, right? Oh, well, we are doing it, right? When we go to agents and we ask agents, do you want any of these properties? That's a form of lead generation, right? Right?
Yeah.
And maybe if we go to past guests and we say, hey, look, have you thought about coming back to Bali after the pandemic? Would you like to book this? I have a special rate for you. Would that be a form of lead generation? Right? Like we can go to, let's say, the pool of past guests and we say, hey, do you know anybody who is coming to Bali in the next 12 months or the next 6 months, right? Would you be interested in working out a special deal for them?
I'm not sure if we have basically system to optimize individual guests, like that been with us.
Okay.
So
But hypothetically, that could be part of, let's say, getting properties to be sold, right?
yes, possibly because I must experience myself. That's like a place that I went to Ubud and they come up to me, hey, today I have a discount. Like, I never thinking like go to on weekend, but because like they reach out to me and then
That's
special
right,
person-
right? So somebody
Oh,
approached,
okay.
yeah. So we should
And
approach
oh,
customers.
me in it. Yeah.
Okay, so then now we're generating good ideas, right? So we're generating, let's say, this idea of lead generation. Now, we need to ask ourselves then, let's go to Kyla. Which category does lead generation go into? Does it go into this not optimized for new property? Is it efforts on maintaining inquiries is insufficient? Is it sales culture? Which one is it? Or does it belong in a new category?
I think lead generation kind of in the sales culture actually.
Kind
I
of,
think,
right?
is it-
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Vidi? Do you think it's part of sales culture for lead generation?
Can be, yep. The source can be from marketing, like digital marketing, but also from the sales itself.
Okay, so let's do that then, Kyla. Let's kind of create a secondary branch here on not optimized sales culture, right? So not optimized sales culture, we can fix by understanding how well we do lead generation, and lead generation can then be okay. So I guess we can branch here, like have a double branch, like the way we have above. Yep. So we can look at lead generation as a part of sales culture, and then of course the KPI for lead generation is number of leads divided by number of attempts, right? So that would tell you, are you effective at building leads? If you try 10 times, you get 10 leads. That's great. If you try one time and you get 100 leads, that's amazing, right? Like that's even more cool. Okay, all right, cool. So we're getting a very good understanding of this now. Okay, great. Wow, this is just kind of building right in front of our eyes. This is pretty fun, yeah. All right, so have we then essentially decided? Oh, we forgot something. What did we forget, babe? Wayana, babe, what did we forget? Is it just the idea of the total number of leads divided by the total attempts?
It's divided by time and the result.
Divided by time again, right? So leads per attempt per time, right? Leads per attempt per time. So that gives us essentially the more clear picture, right? Okay. All right. So great. It looks like we're okay. And then of course, Kyla, on this particular pathway at the very top now, this pathway is for automated marketing generation, right? So this is not active. This is responsive. This is passive lead generation, and it's the same thing, right? It's number of probably leads generated per time, right? Based on the asset, right? So we should have an expectation of how many leads are being generated by, let's say, the website, how many inquiries are generated by, all the OTA platforms and so on and so forth. Okay, so cool. I think that's it, right? Great, we made progress. Congratulations. Is that done?
Yay.
Should we celebrate? Yeah, it's good. We have all the KPIs now for our tools. Okay, fantastic. So let's go back up to the top again. So now we understand something now. We understand that we have now the KPIs to measure if our tools are going to be any good, right? So we understand, okay, this is how we're going to see if the systems that we're creating, if all the things that we're going to do now to improve sales culture, to get more conversions, to do all that, it's going to do well because it will increase the KPIs, right? We'll start here and we will move up to there. All right, so let's then take a look at, I guess, the next level then, which is essentially, okay, so let me move this over, move these little buckets over. So I guess the next thing we need to do is we need to create programs, right? We need to create programs for how we will improve marketing, right? So that there's guidelines for how to do marketing. We need to create programs for how we will create persuasion negotiation, right? And update it. We need to create programs for how we're going to improve sales culture. So does anybody have any ideas for how we're going to generate these orange? Oh, by the way, Vidi, just quick question. Do you notice if I'm doing anything different today than previously? In the way that
in terms of your presentation, right?
Yeah, in terms of how I'm presenting this. Do you notice anything different from...
There is a flow to it, like introduction and then like the body, and also maybe in the end there's always a conclusion, so it's like a loop. Storytelling, basically.
I'm trying to do that, yeah. I'm trying to apply storytelling to the way we lead meetings.
I noticed that as well.
All right, so I'm trying to zoom out and show like what the introduction should be, and then we go through it, and then hopefully by the end we realize, okay, we've covered the distance, right? And that part makes sense. Okay, so now we've understood how to measure. Okay, so let's go and take a look at some of these parts now. These, I guess, are what we are going to create as campaigns, I guess, for the sales chapter now. So we're going to create campaigns. We're going to create. Or actually, I don't know. I'm in a kind of a new territory myself here, Vidi. Maybe Vidi, you can educate me, because are we creating campaigns now? Because campaigns are. This is more like support tools to help campaigns, right?
Yep, correct.
So
these are pivots to be added as a guideline.
Yeah,
right?
They're guidelines, right? They're sort of like teaching material, the support material.
Yes, and we do have to do experiments on them and evaluate whether they are any good.
Right, just like our mechanism diagram here, right?
Yep, correct.
So if the tool is good, then by the time we inspect and look at the results, it should be good. But if it's not,
Yep.
then we need to change the tool. All right. So how much progress have we made today? Okay, we've made pretty significant progress. Let's see, what else do we have in mind? Okay, so we have the KPIs, and we've added a lot of guidelines. We've improved the guidelines, and we probably need to follow up now. Okay, so I guess the next discussion that is born from this discussion here is how do we create the pivots for these programs now? So I'll go ahead and screenshot that. Let's get rid of this little thing. Okay, so that is essentially, I think, the next focus that we need to take a look at. So how are we going to create programs for efforts on marketing? How are we going to create programs for persuasion negotiation? How are we going to create programs to improve sales culture? Now, I just had an idea. Bing. Okay, so let's take a look. I'll use a analogy here, and I want to see if you guys think it's a good thing that we can transfer over. Okay, so we're coming from the world of branding, and branding first got started when Eriko looked at our website. And what she noticed when she looked at the website was that there seemed to be a different journey depending upon the user. So if you were coming in and you wanted to see Bukit Vista as, let's say, a service provider, right? You were coming as a partner, you would see Bukit Vista like this. But okay, if you were coming in and seeing Bukit Vista as a potential employee, you would see Bukit Vista like this. Okay, and if you were coming in to see Bukit Vista as a guest, you probably would see something like this, okay? So she noticed that there was actually details kind of missing on the copywriting that was inconsistent. And so Eriko brought to our attention that there should probably be a unified brand, okay? So then we have this dilemma. We're like, branding is a little bit like what we're doing right now, okay? So we need to write guidelines. But then the crucial part that was difficult was, how do we create the inspection journey? How do we then kind of like make sure everything's on brand, right? There's so many things that we need to talk about. So what we had discovered was this. We developed a interesting little cycle. So what we do is we ask everybody to bring pieces of stuff that they feel like is on brand and pieces of stuff that they feel like is not on brand to each discussion, okay? So bring something that you think is on brand, bring something that you don't think is on brand. So I'll give you an example of something that we came up with. So I took a look around and I contributed. I said, you know what? This is not on brand, right? And we're about to do this in 2 days. This is the next BVE talk. So we took a look at the slide presentation and we started noticing the color background is not correct. The way the logo is probably not entirely correct. The fonts are definitely not correct. So this is not on brand. Okay, great. So what do? We started looking and we started analyzing, okay, why is it not on brand? Okay, because of this. And then we started asking, can we make it easier for people creating presentations to be on brand? And we started realizing, yes, you can make things easier. How? Because when you go and make a presentation, there's no guidelines in Canva. But guess what? You can make guidelines in Canva. You can create brand colors, you can create brand fonts. So this assists people so that when they're in Canva, creating presentations, they don't need to wonder. They'll just go like brand font, brand color, and they will start creating things that are more on brand. So that became essentially what we discovered. So how did that improve things? Well, we started looking and we started categorizing things that we noticed exemplify the brand. Now, this is not perfect, okay? I agree. We could do better. But the format is powerful, and this is why. Because the format tells us visually what is on brand. This is on brand, okay? So we exemplify it. We found it, and then we classified it. We found it, and then we classified it. We're like those people who collect bugs, right? And put them in little drawers and label the species on them. So we're sort of like zoologists, I guess. So we noticed that this is on brand, right? This type of imagery is on brand, and this type of imagery is on brand. This type of imagery, surprisingly, was not on brand. This was not on brand because the background color was blue, and we use a white background color. Wasn't my decision, but that's what the brand people said, right? And we also noticed that this was also not on brand because this was not a background that was blue. Okay, so sharing that story and understanding like sort of this collection process. We collect things, we categorize things into the guideline, and then we notify people that have, let's say, violated a particular guideline, right? Could we use a similar process to actually create, let's say, a cycle here? Okay, so what do I mean? We look for cases where persuasion negotiation did not succeed. All right, we look at, all right, you have had, let's say, a few cases this week, right? You did not convince 6 people at these meetings to partner with Bukit Vista. Why? What was the problem, right? And then we bring that study there. And then let's say, okay, wait, we already have a piece here, right? So Kyla, Wayana, we already made the evolutionary guideline for the pitch, right? So then we again take a look and we see, do you remember what you said? We asked the person who didn't succeed, okay? And we asked, can you break it down for me? Can you break me down what you said in stage 1, what you said in stage 2? Did you get to stage 3, 4, or 5, right? And they tell essentially what they did, okay? So they fill out essentially a failure report, right? What happened? And then you take and you compare it against the guideline. And you go, did you actually follow this guideline? And they'll go, follow the guideline, right? And that is how we can essentially then fix the persuasion negotiation, right? We look for cases where somebody did not follow guidelines, and then we analyze it, and then we fix it, right? Just like the way we're doing with branding. Now, let me dig into this conversation a little bit more and see if we're getting anywhere, okay? Let's go to Vidi. Vidi, what do you think? Does that sound like a process that can be repeated and enhanced? And would that actually be the engine that drives the improved sales culture, the improved persuasion negotiation?
So that's what we did in the inquiry workshop last weekend.
Right.
So there is like there's a screenshot of a case, right? And we ask ourselves, and then we have 2 screens. One is the case and one is the guideline. And we go through the guideline and see what does not exist in the conversation against the guideline. So yeah, I think that's just that's the intuitive solution to cross-checking inspection.
Excellent. Okay, so now let's do an inventory, everybody, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel and go and create processes that have already been created. So let's kind of think about how we want to do this, right? So let's inventory. Vidi, how many existing systems are happening in HAR that you know of are related
regarding sales, right?
Relating to any of these 3 particular aspects, right? Improving the marketing, persuasion negotiation, and improving sales culture.
I suggest I'll link the guideline that we use for inquiry analysis.
Perfect. Okay, so Vidi is going to link that there. But I also need to know the mechanism for inspection, right? So that is the tool. What is the mechanism for inspection? It's the meeting, right? It's the workshop.
That's a meeting. Meeting is usually for flooring the things that Gray found. So there is a police for it. Okay. So patrolling. So Gray is patrolling the inquiries. So there's like a police to patrol the inquiry. It's like I think Wayan also did a patrol as well, right?
Okay.
When she found out, and then she reported back to HAR all things that she thinks should be improved.
Okay.
So there's a literal person who is doing the inspection because we don't have the automated system yet.
I see. Okay, and then how do we then secure adoption? How do we make sure that everybody is following this particular process?
We go back, inspect again.
Okay, inspect again. Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a name for this particular cycle or routine? Is it just the sales inquiry?
We just do like inquiry workshop.
Okay, inquiry workshop.
We just call it, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So Video will put the links there. We let's title it, Kyla. Let's call it the Inquiry Workshop. Okay, so that is essentially the branch on what HAR is doing. And how frequently are we running this particular cycle, Vidi?
Previously, we we change every week. 1 week for reservation, 1 week for hosting. But lately, we've been doing this for reservations only because that's the point of concern.
Okay, so about once a week then, right?
Yep, once a week.
Okay, once a week. All right. So we have a system for HAR then. Let's consider the purpose of this chapter, everybody. Okay. So the chapter's purpose here is to get everyone in the company to become more comfortable with sales and persuasion and techniques, right? So we need to kind of like think about this. What is it that we do is shareable or are intersecting by all the different groups, right? HR, partner, and HAR, right? And what is unique to each particular group? What is unique to each particular group? We can just let that kind of process continue. But what is shared? Would it be more efficient than Vidi to kind of consolidate like the shared knowledge and the shared tactics that can be applied to all three funnels?
Oh yeah, of course. So that's part of this why the sales and negotiation chapter is formed, right?
Okay. So then
Yep. Just like the marketing is actually like a very good example because in marketing the techniques are mostly the same for social media, for example, but it
Yep.
can be applied for all three user funnels.
Okay, very
That's the
good.
closest one.
Okay, so let's ask ourselves this question then, Kyla. Do we need another mechanism? Do we need another routine for everything else, or do we need to combine certain routines together? Or what is your feeling right now in terms of making new wheels or just borrowing existing wheels?
Implementing a new wheel, but with certain adjustment from the previous one, I think.
I think so too, yeah. Vidi, what do you
Yep.
think?
Yeah, in computer science we do have this concept called inheritance.
Ah, I know that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
so
that.
if we have something that is like supersedes the child,
Uh-huh.
we will have like a template, but then we adjust it according to the specific needs.
Wow, that's strong. I remember that. That's object-oriented programming,
Yes,
right?
object-oriented
Yeah,
programming.
okay.
Correct.
So for everybody here, inheritance basically means this, right? Let's say there's a parent process with certain qualities. Like let's say if you think about, let's say, a Venn diagram, okay? So the Venn diagram has, of course, like an intersection point, right? That is what we would call inheritance. What is it that is common techniques and understandings that all people who work in anything
Yep.
related to persuasion negotiation should know, right? And that becomes essentially, let's say, the core topics that we discuss here in this particular gathering. Is that correct, Vidi?
Yep. First, like maybe I'll give a close example. We do have the 5 layers in the user funnel: awareness, engagement, let's say conversion, reservation, and loyalty.
Yeah.
And then maybe in HR they call it differently. I don't know, maybe awareness. What do you call it again, sir? But I remember it's different.
Kind of same. Okay, let me
Yeah.
bring it up.
But there is like application, so it has the general structure is there, but then we just have to make it fit to the actual usage.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awareness, on-site trial applicants, ready new hires.
Yep. But the like all the 3 user funnel adopts this currently.
Right.
But then we call it differently just in each user funnel because it's more relatable.
I see. Okay, so basically it's middle funnel tactics that
Yep,
are essentially
correct.
all throughout.
So
Okay.
what we will do in the sales and negotiation is that, okay, we know that, like let's say what I shared between all sales and negotiation, we know that time is crucial, response time, engagement, and so on and so forth. But then it pertaining to each of the medium that we use to engage with our users, are there any specific tools that we can use to, for example, like in Airbnb, we have the automation.
Right.
To notify us if there's inquiries. So
Right.
that's specific to that user funnel. It doesn't
Yes.
exist in the
Correct,
user funnel.
correct,
But
correct.
the template and the overall general function is there.
I see. Okay, I'm getting some vibes then. Here, tell me
Yep.
if I'm wrong. I got some vibes. Could we split, let's say, this into a few categories, right? On persuasion negotiation, could we do written techniques and spoken techniques?
Yep. So that's the general one, right?
Right. Written techniques
Yep.
then belong to everybody, and
Right.
spoken techniques kind of belong to everybody too, right?
Right.
You go-
It belongs to everybody. But then the child would
Huh?
be, how would you speak to how would you speak differently to partner, guests,
Then
and also employees?
correct.
So it will be different, of course. If you're talk to a guest, maybe it'll be more like a friend, or like to partner, it will be more professional. Who knows? But
Okay.
and to employees usually.
Okay,
I don't
great.
know.
Excellent,
Something
excellent,
like
excellent. Okay, and then part 2 for the improved sales culture, perhaps it's around leading sales team management, right? Team management. How do we actually create a team, like ideas like leaderboards, ideas like
Yes,
compensation, ideas like bonuses for whatever. This then falls under like more of a team management for improving the sales culture, correct?
Yep, and then the child would be like leads per leads as opposed to inquiries as opposed
Right.
to number of applicants. So
Okay.
yep.
Okay, all right. So then this gives us then a focus now, everybody, right? So this is kind of like what we can scan throughout the company, patrol the company for. So we can patrol the company to look for, is there a spoken technique? Now this is going to be hard, right? I don't know how we can record spoken technique and analyze it, but maybe we can. Maybe we just like summarize, okay? We listen to somebody who's trying to close a deal and we give notes about how this person is doing, right? So we can't necessarily copy the entire conversation, but we can actually kind of, put it in a way that we can study it. So we can study spoken conversation, and perhaps that's what senior people do. They study the spoken conversation of people who are essentially trying out to do BD. And we look at that and we go, is this person following any guidelines, right? No, you are not. So then we will talk about it at this discussion. We'll look, here are the guidelines, here's what you said, and you see the difference, and this is probably why it's not working. Follow the guidelines, right? Or it can be, you know what, you closed so many deals, you didn't even use the guidelines. What did you do, right? And then we take what they say, and then that becomes the new guideline, right? So that's essentially how the process guideline iteration works. Babe, does that make sense for you? Okay, good. So now we have kind of like, okay, we have some focus. We have some, we also need this, I think, Kyla, right? So sales culture, improve sales culture. Okay, I'll write it myself because I just, I just totally need to get this down. Team management techniques. Motivation. I guess it could be by recognition and financial rewards. And yeah, I think and prioritization maybe. Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, that sounds actually pretty good. A strategic prioritization. Wait. That sounds like what we always talk about, right, Vinny? Strategic prioritization and motivation are the two things that comprise of how well we lead our teams. All right. So then now let's do this last, right? Let's give our. Oh, we have 2 minutes. Okay, let's give ourselves some homework so that we know what to look for. I'll try now. Oh man, don't fail me. All right, Kyla, this is where I need your help. Let's do this. Let's have everybody here, maybe with maybe Vidi too, right? Let's have everybody here look for 2 examples of work that is exemplary for sales and persuasion, right? In written communication, right? And 2 examples of work that is below what we believe are our standards for written communication in terms of sales and persuasion. And bring that information here for discussion on the next meeting. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah, Carla?
Yep.
Vidi?
Yep. Well.
Okay. And Alia, this is important too. This gives the as a new person, this is where you're going to learn a lot, right? So I think this is actually a really good cycle then. This is an inspection cycle, right? So we always look and inspect. We then create the guidelines based on what we see, right? And then once we've established, okay, these are the best ways to approach this, and then the guidelines become organic. They don't become what we aspire to do. They become more like what we're actually kind of like doing, and we just follow what the best practices that we're generating internally are. Okay, so let's give ourselves that assignment. So the next meeting, please everybody bring 2 examples of written persuasion that you see are really good, that these could be guidelines
Is
to
it
follow.
internally or outside?
You can bring internal or externally. That'd be good too. Yeah. If you see something that is inspirational that we should definitely follow, then let's consider adding that. Okay. And then this can slowly go into how we build the written guidelines. I think we already have it, right, Vidi? Something of that, like a top level document, and then we can attach all the inquiry, maybe like negotiating with partners on WhatsApp and all these things into that particular parent document, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's do that then, and I'll see everybody next week. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Babe, please tell Nadine about this as well. And that way Nadine will also have this as well. Oh, also, babe, I'll need to sit with you to call Airbnb now, right? And figure out what we need to do about that whole profile thing. So for everyone else, have a great day, and I'll see you by next week, if not sooner.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
See ya.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you.
Mhm.